Do you think we'll ever switch from like the U.S. dollar as a monetary across the world to Bitcoin or blockchain? Because one thing I like about the Bitcoin or blockchain is like it's the set number, right? It doesn't increase or decrease it. Where like the U.S. dollar, you can just print more money if you want to and cause like inflation, right?
Yeah.
Think that ever happen?
So in 2025 alone, year to date, I think the US dollar has lost somewhere around 10% of its purchasing power. So, I mean, I think that's a good data point on why we need alternative forms of money where you cannot constantly inflate the supply. And Bitcoin, for example, the supply is limited. There will be 21 million Bitcoins in existence, and that's it. Also, if you think about it with Bitcoin, which is interesting, um, the degree of adoption as of today is close to a 4%, which is where the internet was in
Yeah,
1998.
I saw that in your LinkedIn or somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're still early.
Yeah.
We are very early. And now we're at the phase where companies are starting to adopt it, including a ton of publicly traded companies that put in part of their treasuries in Bitcoin. Part of it is for the reason that we just have discussed, right? Like the value of the US dollar went 10% down in year to date alone. And that's the US dollar. I mean, there's some other currencies that are losing far more than that, right? So you sort of need to find some sort of store of value. Traditionally, those used to be gold and silver, right? But in the digital age, I would argue is things like Bitcoin.
So like back in the day, the U.S. dollar is backed by gold. It's not backed by gold anymore. I guess it's just backed by the U.S. government. I guess. So what is Bitcoin backed by? Like there's 21 million Bitcoin. What's backed this up?
Um, it's backed by the code, which basically nobody can change the fact that nobody can change the issuance schedule, nobody can change the supply. Uh, it cannot be altered, but it's also backed by a huge mining infrastructure that is behind it, uh, which translates into a ton of electricity that is backing the entire network. Also, all of the network that has been built around Bitcoin, and that can go anywhere from the miners that we have discussed to the layers too that have been put on top, such as the Lightning Network, Bitcoin ATMs, exchanges, you name it. But now that infrastructure is expanding, and banks are applying for their licenses to be able to hold and offer not only Bitcoin but also other cryptocurrencies, right? So it's backed by all of that.
Now, can people actually make a good career or good living of just doing Bitcoin mining?
Um, Bitcoin mining, probably not.
Okay.
So Bitcoin mining requires a very significant investment in infrastructure as of today. And perhaps the key factor is exceedingly cheap cost of electricity. So unless you have abundance of capital for the initial deployment of infrastructure, because you're going to need a substantial amount of equipment and miners and everything else, and you have very, very cheap cost of electricity, it is very hard to be like an individual miner,
Yep.
right? There's many reasons for that, right? Which can take us a lot of time to discuss. But basically, because the network is so big right now, the cost of entry to become a miner is much higher.
Okay. And I know there's like a thing called wallets, right? Where you like store your crypto or Bitcoin in different wallets. There's a lot of wallets out there. Are all wallets like pretty much the same, or is like one that's like more higher quality than others? Or does a wallet even matter?
Yeah, oh, it matters a lot. So the key about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is that if you don't control the wallet, it's not your money. It can be seized just as if it was in a bank. But if you control the keys, right, which is typically like the 12 words or 24 words that are your private keys, then you are the owner of that money, and nobody can take it away from you. And to give you an example, you could take those 12 or 24 words, or nowadays even passphrases, put them on a piece of paper, right? And then have access to that money as long as you have that piece of paper or remember the words anywhere in the world, right? Now that's the beauty of it, is that is it's a very free form of money that cannot be seized by any other entity, right?
So a Bitcoin, it pretty much takes government agency or government organization out the money flow, right? Sort of, kinda.
Um, yes and no, because for example, right now, as we have discussed, banks are applying for licenses to start dealing with it. Publicly traded companies are dealing with it. The U.S. government has a national reserve of Bitcoin, right? So I think even nations are starting to think, how do I plug in into this, right?
Because like I think it didn't isn't El Salvador like strictly Bitcoin now.
El Salvador, as far as I understand, El Salvador still has their own currency, but Bitcoin is legal tender, so you can pretty much use it in any situation that you want.
And this is like the country collapse or anything economic collapse. So it's obviously Bitcoin can work. Of course, El Salvador is so small compared to the United States.
Yeah, I mean, if the country collapses, it collapses regardless of what it's using, right? Um, but the value of the currency, which traditionally in countries that have problems, sometimes you can see the value of the currency being depreciated even 90% overnight, right? Or more. Uh, the moment that you have an alternative such as Bitcoin, that is no longer a worry uh, because Bitcoin cannot inflate their supply.
Yeah. I don't know why they. I mean, I don't know why they picked 21 million. I'm sure there's a rhyme or reason to it. I'm sure this pick out of thin air, but I don't know like 20 million. And did they ever like figure out? I can't remember the name of the guy who like invented Bitcoin. But isn't it true like they don't really know who he was?
The guy or group of guys or girls or group of people, entities, right?
I know they have like a I won't say a fake name, but a fake name for this person, right?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that could be a group of people.
You know, I never thought about that. Yeah, you're right. It could be.
It could be. I guess we'll never know.
No, we never know, right? And that's probably a good thing, though, right? For the long-term health of Bitcoin, I guess.
I don't think it matters that much because as of now, the original wallet of Satoshi Nakamoto holds 5% of the supply. So 5% is, I mean, it's a lot of money, right? But in relative terms, it's just 5%.
Yeah.
And that money, by the way, has never been touched or moved.
Oh wow.
So we don't even know if they still have access to it or.
I wonder if anybody's trying to like, go to the blockchain itself, like try to figure out like go way back in the past, like try to like do like I don't know IP tracking or VPN or whatever the case may be, like try to track like the original thing came from, you know.
I think they've tried. They've tried everything they could, and they've even tried when originally Satoshi Nakamoto used to post on uh, the forums, but nobody, as far as I know, nobody has been able to trace it back, or at least it has been completely undisclosed.
Yeah. I'm sure he has good reason not wanting to be like a public figure too, you know.
Sure, and it's probably better if it stays that way.
Yeah, definitely. So next, you do a lot of mentoring at the Commonwealth at the University of Washington. Can you talk about your what you do there?
Um, yeah, so there's commotion at the University of Washington, which is a great incubator um, with great people involved, both senior professionals as well as students, entrepreneurs, teachers, etc. So, I mean, the short answer is anything that I can do for the University of Washington to help, I will. And anytime that Commotion or any other entity at the University of Washington want me to go and um, provide my opinion or advice to anyone that it can help, I'll probably do it.
So how did this relationship start, right? Did they reach out to you or you reach out to them? How did this whole relationship start between y'all?
So I got involved with commotion very back in the day, and quite frankly, I don't even remember how. Um, but they were starting the commotion labs, um, at least a cohort of advisors, and I was part of one of the first cohorts of advisors.